Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Jack's Business Talk. Today we have Hunter Gore. We met in the school community of ORAT. So thank you for being on today.
Hey Jack, thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to just talking shop and you know doing all things real estate. So thanks for having me on.
Yes, definitely. So since I always forget, do you want to plug yourself in the beginning here?
Yeah,
Like how people can.
yeah, that's great. I appreciate it. So best place to get a hold of me online is probably through X. My username is at the Hunter Gore. Pretty straightforward. I'm also on YouTube, not as active on YouTube as I'd like to be, and obviously in the school community. If you're a part of one rental at a time, or just on school, feel free to reach out to me there.
Awesome. So what I asked you to come on is to talk a little bit about yourself, and we'll just keep going from there. So how what got you into real estate?
Yeah, so my real estate journey really sort of started my freshman year of college. I was going into college as a computer science major, real, coder, that whole sort of uh, thought process and mindset around what computer science actually was. I got into my first computer coding class and realized this is like speaking French. I don't speak French, by the way, so it was difficult. Let me just put it like that. Did not have a good grade point average going in, closer to finals, and decided, hey, I can actually drop the class and without much penalty at least. So did that, and then sort of took a couple months to pivot and figure out what I wanted to do. I knew that going into college, I either wanted to do computer science or I wanted to go into business, get a business degree. I didn't know if that was just like a normal business administration degree, a marketing, finance, what have you. But I still had some time to think, so I said, okay, I will at least switch into business, figure it out later. When I made the switch, that was sort of between my break between fall and spring semesters, and picked up everybody's favorite book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's a great book. Really helped reframe my mindset around money, wealth, real estate, business, all of that. And I said, okay, real estate stuff starts to make sense. Let's go do it. So uh, coming back into school that spring semester, got connected with somebody who was a little bit older than me, a couple grades above me, and he was really wanting to, build a real estate team. He was already buying a couple properties, had some capital, had some knowledge, some backing. So I said, "Hey, good person to partner up with." Worked with him for 9 months, maybe close to a year, and had a lot of success. Learned a ton. But that was really more on the wholesale investment side. So learning how to run numbers on properties, analyze properties, and figure out if they are going to be good investments. So after that, I decided, hey, might be a good idea to, find something else that can make some money in the meantime. Because typically, not always, but typically you have to have money to invest in real estate. And it's not really going to be paying your bills along the way. It's not going to be, throwing off thousands of dollars a month to go pay all those bills. So I said, okay, got to find something else to do while I'm in school, trying to pay my way through as best I could. And somebody said, hey, Hunter, you should get your license. You could use that to, make some money, roll some of those commission checks into real estate properties. I said, bingo, that is it. So that's sort of what I did. Again, really just based off of advice from other investors, people who were older and wiser than I was. So I got my license. So I was 19 going on 20. So got my license and been essentially selling ever since. Sold throughout college, uh, built up a little real estate team in college, a bunch of college students. So we can go into that rabbit hole too if you want. But from there, obviously follow the same path of rolling commission checks into real estate deals, and bought the first property beginning of 21, and just been rolling with it ever since.
Excellent. And what year roughly was it that you were starting to build it up? Like, was it after? '08? Was it before '08?
No, all within the last 5 years. I mean, really since COVID.
Oh, okay. So how did you go about building your team then?
Yeah, so when I was just getting my real estate license, I had partnered up with somebody who'd been in the business about 15 years. He was, about 15 years, maybe about 20 years older than me, but have been in the business about 15 years, owned a bunch of rental properties, somebody who I would have defined as very successful in the real estate business. And part of our relationship was, in many ways, he was a mentor to me. How do you put a real estate transaction together? How do you work with clients? Things like that. But between the two of us, we came up with a really unique idea to build a real estate team focused on helping college students. The whole idea behind it was, hey, student loans are expensive, very expensive to go to school. How can we help college students? Well, let's help them, sell real estate and crush student loan debt through real estate sales. And that was essentially our tagline for our little real estate team and business. So made everybody go get a real estate license just to keep everything above board, and built it up to where we had at one point about 8 people on the team for a semester. Ran that little business for probably 2 years, two year and a half, 2 years. So a lot of fun. Learned a lot. Learned how to manage people, manage a budget. Whole 9 yards. So really a fantastic experience for me to, again, just get some firsthand experience, and also got to, close some real estate deals, make some money, and ultimately helped some friends who are on the team make some money, and work toward paying off their student loan debt. So that was sort of our business model. We eventually wanted to look at expanding the idea and taking it to different college towns around the Southeast. Because I'm based out of Greenville, South Carolina, so I went to school not too far down the road, and thought, hey, this could be a really great idea if you could, maybe franchise it out to other college towns. But unfortunately, the business didn't materialize. I don't think we were running the right model necessarily for that in the long run. But again, still learned a lot and got a ton of experience through that.
So anyone that went through your program initially, does any of them still sell real estate?
Uh, Man, that's a good question. I don't think anybody still sells real estate. One guy is a essentially a commercial lender. One guy works in, I believe he still works in commercial acquisitions for essentially like a real estate private equity group, which is cool to see. One of the guys was in real estate, but he bought his a property and essentially started to build a portfolio, and so that was cool to see that. Um, yeah, I don't know that anybody else is still selling real estate outside of me, but I think everyone is still connected to the real estate industry in one way, shape, or form, which is cool to see.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely cool. So what type of advice would you give them as they were starting off, and how would that differ from today with more years of experience?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I cannot remember any advice that I gave them. Starting, I can probably speculate to what I might have told them, but yeah, definitely having experience in the business, I think helps. I think just also having maturity as well. I mean, I was in college myself. I was the same age as everybody else, essentially that I'm bringing on the team, and again, they're all other fellow college students. So I'm helping to go recruit new talent into the business, trying to help grow the business, trying to manage all those employees, manage, the books, a sales pipeline, all of that. And I think I realized that, you can't do it alone. And again, I think for what we were doing, it worked well in a small bubble, so to speak, but it was not the right model to go and expand and build and grow, whether that's, franchising to other markets, um, or just trying to build out the team with more people. So it definitely would have taken some more managers, and fortunately, we really didn't have the money coming in, revenue or profit, to really pay somebody else to manage it. So yeah, but I think looking back, I would probably tell people who were looking to join, or quite simply even just looking to get into real estate at that age is, hey, go out there, give it your best shot, put your best foot forward. um, you're really not going to get what you don't ask for. And so if you're not taking enough action and having conversations with people, nobody's going to help you. I think another person said is that nobody's coming to save you. Like if you have mounting student loan debt, let's say you have, for easy numbers, $100,000 in student loans. The government's not coming to save you, as much as some people might think that that's the case. Other people aren't coming to save you. You really, unfortunately, have to save yourself. So I think that that's a great opportunity for people to, build skills, build connections, build resources, and make money. And then they can, take a commission check, take part of that, and use it to start paying back um, that student loan debt. Gets them out of debt quicker, gets them on the right side of the tracks, so to speak, financially, and can set you up for success years down the road.
Cool. Um, so skip to today. Um, you do you own investment properties of your own?
Yeah, we do. We have some properties that are local to us, have some that are out of state, so we get to self-manage the ones here, and essentially asset manage the ones out of state. We have actual property managers as boots on the ground there. So really just getting to sort of learn both sides of the business, which is always fun.
Okay. And do you like investing into do you like your investments and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, we've been very blessed to build the portfolio that we have now. It's been primarily through creative financing. So I'm a huge fan of finding creative ways to do the deals. I'm a part of I'm not a subject to student for Pace Morby, but I am a part of his Facebook groups, and so I see some of the deals and stuff. And there's a part of what we have is similar type deals, but it also even sort of goes a little bit further to looking at lease options and even more creative stuff than what is even discussed in some of those groups. So yeah, for the most part, everything's running and humming pretty well right now. We spent the last year really trying to stabilize the whole portfolio. Had a couple of properties that weren't performing at a peak level, and we're now we're coming into end of November, almost to December, and it's just now getting stabilized. So took a while, but we're thankful to be here. But yeah, most of what we have is what I would classify as small apartments. So think of 2 to 4 units. That's typically the bread and butter. Um, Obviously looking at larger projects, even some value added retail. That's primarily what I'm going after right now is value added retail. Um, you know, Creative multifamily. So think of a 10 or 15 unit with seller financing where maybe the seller finances 50% of it or something creative. We could bring in a bank for the rest and not much money out of our pocket. And then I'm also working on doing more of the build to rent strategy. Where essentially we can build our own inventory for 60 70 cents on the dollar versus what it appraises at. So great opportunity to sort of build and then burr the money back out of it.
Okay. Yeah, I like the small multifamilies personally. I do a lot of value add projects, but since that's kind of how I do. I start with the inside, unless it's like a roof. Then I start with a roof, and then I go inside. But out of the 4 units I had, I think have, let's see, the one I just got the double. I call it double duplex because they're right next to each other as a package deal. You couldn't just buy one, you had to buy both.
Great. Yeah.
But that one I bought back in June. That one's not stabilized. It's probably not going to be stabilized till half or like 3/4 of the way done till June almost, I'm guessing. And but yeah, the first one I bought is done. I finished that one up last year. I'm thinking about doing a few other things just to kind of make things more efficient. But the second one I bought, that should be finished up probably this year. I need to put in a 2-tier retaining wall and do the roof, and then that one's done. Yeah, and like the other one, like I said, that one's just it's been a headache and a half.
Yeah. When you're typically finding and acquiring your properties, are you normally paying cash? Are you getting like a hard money loan on it? What's the financing look like on the front end so that you can then burr it out on the backside?
I do well so far. The first deal that I bought has quite a bit of equity in it, but I just use conventional lending on that one. The second one, um, I bought poorly, so even though I've put a lot of money into it, it will act, it's just going to have to be a property that stays in the portfolio because it'll never be worth what I put into it.
Mm.
So, like knowing what I knew about that place now, I wouldn't have bought that deal because I paid almost almost like 70,000 for it, and probably in the past 4 years, I put like 40K into it, and it probably ended up being closer to like 55 when it's all said and done. And I see it only being worth about like 100,000 when it's all said and done. So that one's just going to have to stay in the portfolio. But
Yeah,
this one, the one I'm working on now, that was conventional lending as well. I'm probably once it's done going to, in order to get my money back out of it, do a DSCR loan, and just so I can get it all under one mortgage instead of two separate ones.
yeah,
And that way I can get my money back out of that one. That one I bought for around 210, and I'm estimating that when it's done, it should be worth about 320 or so.
yeah. That's great. What do you think is your ideal loan to value percentage across your portfolio? Like, is there a good percentage number that you say, hey, I feel comfortable, um, essentially with the amount of equity that I have in my portfolio versus a cash flow perspective?
Like right now as I'm building, or just ideally like as I'm wrapping things up.
Either one, yeah. I mean, would love to know like what you have now, and then what you think you'd like to work toward in the future.
Right now, I'm probably pushing closer to like 90% with that includes the loans to help get the properties up and going and stuff, which I honestly don't like that. I would actually like to get that down closer to 80%. But as I'm getting close, like as probably in about 5 years or so, as I'm getting closer to wrapping things up, like I don't want to quit my W-2 job until I get everything down to about 60%. And in that process, any bad debt that outside of the portfolio between me and Cynthia, I want to get all that paid off. That way, it's a smooth transition. And because my whole goal is, as I'm wrapping things up to get my real estate license, start trying to sell houses. I want to start like a little bit. I want to get the landscaping company going with a couple people working for me during the winter and the off season, so I don't have to lay everyone off. I was going to have them work on about try to do like 3 or 4 flips across the winter, and that way during the summer I can sell those as they're completing. And the other thing I want to work on is, surprisingly enough, is vending machines.
Hmm. Okay, tell me more.
Which part of it? The vending machine part?
Interesting part.
So what I was thinking about doing is having about 10 to 20 vending machines. I only want to do vending machines where I can have a pop and a candy machine together. That way it's only 10 different stops. Um, I was thinking about trying to get a fuel efficient vehicle, something that can tow quite a bit of stuff around. So I was actually thinking, like my current vehicle is a Nissan Frontier, and with the way things are set up with the vending machines, and it can keep track of all the records and stuff, is like I could put probably like a lot of people they put the tubs in the dolly and stuff. I was like, I could put the dolly easily in the bed of the truck. I could keep the candy and all that stuff up here in the AC with me, so it won't be melting and stuff. I could easily probably fit like 6 tubs in here. And honestly, if I had to, I could move the stuff that won't melt into the bed of the truck in a tub. So it's like I could put all those with the dolly. It's like this size truck is actually perfect for that. It moves wonderfully in the city, so it won't be a problem. It's like, but the gas mileage sucks. I was like, so what vehicle would help with that? I was like, the Maverick. So I'm leaning towards the Maverick because it can get like around 30 miles a gallon. I was looking at, I think it was,
Yeah, that's great.
and inside like the payload for what I'm using it for is perfect. Like I would just pull the back seat out of it. I have room for the tubs of candy, and could put the chips and stuff in the back with the dolly.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, you utilizing all the space there. I found when I've looked into vending machines, the hardest part of that business model is the locations of the machines. Trying to find a location to put everything that's
Hmm.
somewhat centralized. Like I saw a guy on Facebook Marketplace last week in my area. He was selling his business like that. He wanted $100,000 for it, and it came with I think 10 or 12 machines and locations. Problem is, um, you know, let's say the majority of them were within a 30-minute radius, but he had two that were 45 minutes of that central location in either direction. So it's like
Hmm.
spending time, driving to all these places, when you could just cut, one of those machines and centralize everything.
Yeah, that's kind of why I want to focus on that more as I'm getting ready to wrap things up a little bit, just because that way, because in my mindset, what I'm thinking is, and maybe you can correct me since you're actually an agent, is you wake up in the morning. I plan on waking up early because I want to get into that cycle once I get off a night shift, waking up early to start your day. And I was thinking about going to the gym and start working on, just taking care of your physical self more and wrap things up. And it'll probably be like 7 o'clock in the morning. Get ready for the day and just hit two, just hit two stops, and then you have the rest of the day to go swap out vehicles, and then you have the rest of the day to work on real estate stuff, whether it be the rental portfolio or showing houses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it's definitely a good idea to get into a good, routine, nightly, morning routine. And so I think if you can really perfect that, that's, definitely a good way to, go about it. Um, so yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think you should do it.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing that's really holding me back right now is just the fact that I work a goofy night shift schedule. Because even if I was on daylight, but I work my shifts like my shifts, I would easily be able to fire up the landscaping company and probably do a good bulk of the work. The problem with landscaping is it's hard to keep people engaged, especially here in the beginning, like the first few years. Like the only people I'm going to be able to find are high schoolers and stuff. So it's like you really can't trust them to leave them by themselves. You have to be there. I don't want to say holding their hand, but like I'm not going to leave them in my personal vehicle to go driving between job sites.
Sure. Yeah, that's tough. It's like where can you find solid help? I feel like a lot of people, who run similar type businesses, they end up being more solopreneurs than anything. So it's basically just a glorified job. Um,
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. It's good to be able to provide income for yourself, but to get to a point where you own a business, something that you don't have to work in every day, can be tough. Because it's like you either have to go scale up enough that you have business that you can hire quality people, or you have to do a lot of it yourself. And I think that's where I run into a lot of issues because I've built at least three or four. I have to go back and count, but I've built a number of companies from scratch. None of them have made it so far, except for my property management business, which just is for us since we self-manage. But um, the whole scalability thing in any business, I think, is crucial because you have like so if whenever you're flying in a commercial jet and, the pilots are, getting the engines up and you're going down the runway about to take off, you have to get to a certain speed before the pilots can get the bird, up in the air, and so
Uh-huh.
they call out V1 for rotate, whenever you get to, 160, 180 knots, whatever it is, and then you can actually get up and going. But if you don't get that speed, then you have to typically abort the takeoff because for whatever reason something's not functioning right. And I think for a lot of people in a lot of different business verticals, you have to have some level of speed and momentum, to actually build something meaningful. Otherwise, it's just, side gigs and hobbies and things like that. And again, nothing wrong with any of that. But I think for me, I've realized, like, even in my own rentals, it's like, okay, we have X amount, but, I need to, double or triple this to get enough, momentum going in one direction that it's actually going to be meaningful. Otherwise, it's just having a couple of rentals and, great, they'll be paid off in 30 years, but, you're not going to have much from it for 30 years, essentially until all the debt's paid
Uh-huh.
and get that. So even from a property management perspective, like, you need to be managing so many doors before you can really invest in the higher quality software and, solid team. So yeah, I think if you're looking for, the landscaping business, or if you're looking at, vending machines, I think those are both great ideas. I would encourage you to see, like, what is your, point of no return, your point where you can really take off in your business. Is that 5 machines and locations? Is that 3? Is that 10? On landscaping, is that, you know, $10,000 a month coming in that, is recurring revenue that you can pay employees? I don't know. For every business model, it's going to be different. But I think just
Yeah.
having, speed and momentum behind your business, when you're getting off the ground, is really crucial.
Yeah, because like my whole goal is with the landscaping business, and I've looked roughly in the ballpark numbers, and I don't have anything exact. I don't have anything in front of me to even share. But my overall goal is basically you have 36 weeks that you can work on. So what I was thinking, what I want to try to do is in those 36 weeks, basically offer grass mowing, mulch beds, and painting, internal painting. That way you also have some stuff going on in the winter too, and let that pay for the employees. But then, like in their, if it's raining or something and we can't get any work done, have them work on my flips and stuff. And that's basically where I'll make my money is off those flips.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's good. Yeah, I mean, just trying to find other creative ways that you can still balance the revenue out. I mean, maybe it's
Uh-huh.
winter, we're focusing on snow removal, or maybe we have a big push, at the end of the season for winterization. I don't know. Like, one of our properties, we pay a third party landscaper to take care of it. It's just cheaper and easier, and they were doing it long before we owned and managed it. But they essentially charge, in the spring and in the fall, 2 separate charges that essentially is for, like, mulching of the beds and general upkeep beyond just, mowing and, weeding, edging, things like that. So that's, I don't know, it's probably, let's call it $250 in the spring and $250 in the fall. So total, I'm paying $500 on top of whatever my monthly, cost is. So maybe you could
Yeah.
build for your client base to say, hey, we're going to do a big winterization, and that's obviously more revenue, and, you're going to have some expenses related to that on the payroll side. But, just another way to try to bring in additional revenue so that you're not having to, essentially rob Peter to pay Paul with with the flips. You almost want to build out separate silos so that they can fund and self-sustain themselves. You're not having to go, you know pull money away from one job or side hustle to go fund another, because, I've done that before, and it sucks. It feels like you're not winning because, you're not. You have one profitable thing and you have one that's not, and you got to figure out, hey, what's more important. So I actually went through a similar conversation with myself about 2 months ago. I built up unique business related to mortgages and real estate loans, and just realized, hey, this is not profitable. Like I'm having to go pull money from my other business every single month, just to cover the overhead. And even if this gets profitable, it's going to take years and so much of my time. Like better to just cut it and
Uh-huh.
keep moving.
The one other thing I thought about, because I used to own a landscaping business years ago, and I didn't, I kept it in the hobby phase, and I never got it big enough, which is why the second time around, I have different ideas on how to do it differently and better. One of the things I'm thinking about doing this time is switching a lot of stuff because I already have a lot of electric stuff for going around my personal place, and just having, because saving the money and gas on stuff is such a huge saver. Now, granted, your mowers and stuff, like your big equipment, it's going to have to stay gas. There's nothing reasonably priced that can replace the gas in that area. But like your weed whackers, your blowers, your all that kind of stuff, your edgers, you can do that all with battery powered now.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. As long as you have a way to charge it, as you're going between, locations, it's a
Yeah,
great.
I was going to get like a Jackery or something, and then just have the Jackery being charged by the truck as you're driving around and stuff, and that way it's kind of self-fueling in that aspect.
Yeah, no, no, that's great. Another thing you should look into if you haven't already for the landscape business is to essentially get a bunch of commercial accounts. Um, businesses, commercial office parks, where you can maintain the landscaping there. And
Hmm.
now of contracts in place with recurring revenue on the commercial side, and then as you build out the residential side, which is probably a little bit easier to do, you at least know that you have a back, like you have a floor, so to speak, because at least, hey, I've got this amount coming in from all these different contracts and all these different people that are wanting to utilize our services. So
Yeah. So what's next for you? You're talking about, are you going to buy more? You're talking about making the switch to commercial. How's that look for you?
yeah, so that's definitely been a fun and interesting journey so far. I've been an agent for about 6 years now. So mostly on the residential side, but about a year and a half ago, I started to do more work with somebody who is more involved in the commercial space as a client, and so been able to represent them on a number of transactions and really just trying to grow my presence and name out there, from a commercial perspective. Been able to pick up a couple more clients, which is fantastic. More on the buy side, and so now it's just finding them the right property. Um, so that can always be a challenge. I mean, similar to residential, where there's a low of inventory really across the country. We also have lower than average commercial properties that are available on the market. A lot of commercial deals transact off market anyway, but
Mhm.
there's still a low amount of properties that are even on the market. So again, really just finding the right property for them. So that's definitely been a challenge.
So I'm not overly familiar with commercial. So for someone like for you or even for me, how do you go about finding a deal? Like, is it there's not like an MLS for commercial buildings, is there?
So there technically is, maybe not in the same sense as a true MLS, but there's multiple websites out there, that you can go find commercial properties. I mean, two top ones that come to mind for everybody are LoopNet and Crexy. Both of those have a plethora of commercial properties. Commercial property can range anywhere from a 5 unit of apartment building, which 5 units, whatever, but 5 units is typically the 4 to 5 is the cutoff point from a lending perspective. So you typically go to commercial lending by default on anything above 5 units. So that's why 5 units and above is typically classified as commercial. Any sort of office building, flex industrial space, land, office towers, I mean, you name it, those are, you know, different types of commercial properties. So yeah, you know, LoopNet and Crexy, if you're just trying to go figure out, you know, hey, what properties are out there, if I want to either buy it from an investment perspective or buy as an owner user, good places to at least start. But obviously, local brokers are going to know the market way better than what online resource is going to say.
Okay.
But yeah, great question. I think your other question was like, what's next for me? Um, yeah, so you know, 25 is really focused again on, you know, continuing to grow the commercial side of my business from an agent broker perspective, but I really want to get into the build the rent space. Been I'm talking with a couple people locally in my market who've done it. Talking with people in school. Brandon's one of them that comes to mind. You know, that's doing it really well, and I just see the possibility for that. To kind of give some clarity to that, throw some numbers behind it, because you know, I'm a numbers person. If someone's talking about a deal, I want to know you know, details of the deal. So I'm working on one right now that essentially I would be buying the land for $30,000. I'm working out a deal with the seller. He's a buddy of mine. He's essentially going to finance it to me, and then I'm going to get a construction loan from a bank to come in and give me all the money used to build it. We're gonna be building a 1,575 square foot product. It's 2 stories, 3 bed, 2.5 bath, but it does not have a garage. So think of a very common slab built house with a driveway, you know, 2 story, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, normal. Can't even say normal nowadays. You know, those used to be very normal builder grade finishes. Now builder grade is like, you know, cheaper. But anyway, so that's sort of what we're going to look at building. Our cost is about $112 a square foot. So let me tell you, that's a little high. Oh, I did. Sorry, I'm trying to do this on my calculator and I fat fingered it. Okay, so about $176,000 is our cost to build. 176,000.
Okay.
And that's including paying builders who I have a connection with. They do what I call wholesale builds, where essentially I agree to pay them either a percentage of the overall build cost or a flat fee up front. So in this case, you know, I'm going to pay them about $25,000 for this, but they're going to GC the whole project and obviously manage it. And then my cost is going to be adding another $30,000 on top of that. So it comes out to about 205, 206, 207, somewhere in there. And then I'm going to have some interest cost on obviously the builder loan and the land loan, because I'm going to finance that through a friend for a couple months. You know, so all in, let's say I'm in for 220, 225. The building will appraise right around 300,000 for it. So again, 300,000 is the number we're targeting for the ARV. You know, if we can pull out 75% of that on a DSCR, which is what we're shooting for, you know, that leaves us with about 225 of what we can pull out, which would essentially cover probably 99% of our cost, if not 100%. I mean, who knows? Maybe I have to come out of pocket like $1,000, but you know, if you could go buy a new construction house for $1,000, it's going to cash flow, you know, 150 bucks a month. I don't know. I would do that time again. So that's sort of what I'm looking to do. Again, you know, big picture is I'm going to be in for 225. It's going to appraise at 300. I can pull out, you know, 75% of that equity, pay off the construction loan. Maybe I bring some money to the table, but essentially I'm buying and building my rentals for very cheap out of pocket. You know, while getting people around me, lenders, friends, sellers, connections, helping them to make money, a return on their investment, and you know, being able to snowball this process. So, you know, ideally, if I can go build a house for, you know, $2,000 out of pocket, well, you know, how many times can I go build that throughout a year? Probably a good amount. You know, maybe some
Yeah.
praise for more and cost less, so I don't bring any money. Maybe I make money. Maybe I, you know, get a couple $1,000s in my pocket. So But yeah, so that's sort of the process. So again, I've identified a lot, and going to be working with my buddy who's selling it. We're supposed to be meeting next. So we're recording this day before Thanksgiving, but first week of December, we're going to be meeting to talk through getting that lot under contract, and so we'll begin that process then. So.
Okay. Yeah. You have to let us know how things go and keep us updated on the progress.
Yeah, I absolutely. I'm hoping it will take about 3 to 4 months. I helped from a project management perspective. I helped build the same floor plan, about 30 minutes out of town, the other direction from where this lot that I'm looking at is going to be. And so, I know what those appraised at, and I know how long it took those to build. I know the exact subs and the cost there. So hopefully the numbers are dialed in and we can get it executed in a couple months.
Cool. Well, I definitely wish you the best of luck in that. I I don't know if that would actually work in my market just because it's kind of such a I don't know, it's kind of like one of those weird markets, like where a lot of the buildings are a lot older and stuff, and people just kind of renovate them. You kind of got the wheels turning in my head. It's like, huh, could I do this with this, and could I do that with that? And I don't know. You got me thinking.
Well, my whole mindset around it is that I've typically been acquiring assets that are, a little bit older. Let's say they're a 1960s, 70s, or 80s vintage. Those
Yeah.
inherent with deferred maintenance or capital expenses that are going to naturally come up, whether that's electrical, plumbing, roof, whatever. And generally speaking, a new construction house is meant to at least, hopefully, last 30 years, 30 to 50 years plus. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I can get into a property for let's say 10% down or less, then to me
Hmm.
that's, especially if it's like a new construction asset that, again, outside of maybe some small repairs, I'm not having to go invest thousands or tens of thousands into capex every single year. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I just wanted to build a portfolio, maybe I sell in 1031 out of my other older properties, take the equity and roll it into brand new construction stuff. I could eventually get to a point where I have, 20 to 50 of these new construction houses that I built over maybe a 5 or 10 year period. And at the end of the 10 years, the ones that I would have built first, those are just starting to roll over from a capex perspective. Again, this is really hypothetical, but I've just seen this play out to a degree. As long as you build a house right, you have good materials, your HVAC is not going to go out 3 months into it. You're not going to have to replace the roof or jackhammer the floor and redo plumbing. It's just generally it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's just my thought there. And we'll probably secure the property out of the construction loan with a DSCR. So it's going to be a fixed year or fixed rate 30-year mortgage. So it will at least cash flow, and we can always sell something or refinance it again later down the road to pull out more equity if we want to.
So I have thought, and I'm not sure if this is a possibility or not, but your older buildings, if you're to 1031 them, could you sell them? And this is where I'm kind of not really sure how you would do this, but could you sell them and then buy like one of your properties basically from yourself in like an LLC or something? I'm not sure if that's something feasible or not.
So um, let me preface by saying I'm not a 1031 expert, but from what I know, you can't buy it from yourself. Like even if you own it in a weird complex structure, the
Hmm.
only way to maybe accomplish what you're thinking about is to do a reverse 1031, where you essentially buy a property with some cash that you have in your pocket. You like it, it's a newer asset, whatever. You can then sell the old building and 1031 the equity technically into the new one that you just bought. You're technically giving yourself
Okay.
back, and you are essentially not having the tax burden from selling the old property to get into the new one. But I haven't executed or helped the client execute a reverse 1031, but I've just heard a lot of stories about those. So that might be the closest thing to it. So you might have to, do some research on that. But yeah, definitely could be a good idea. Um, what I eventually would like to do with this whole build to rent strategy, if I can get a really good track record with it, is I'd like to eventually do this on 5, 10, 15 houses all at once. I'd like to buy up some land, subdivide it, and just do it all on those houses. Because again, if you can go build for 60, 65, 70 cents, 75 cents on the dollar to what it's worth, you've got so much equity built in, and you do that over 10 houses. It's if you have and again, just easy numbers, but if you have $100,000 per house, well, you just got $1 million in equity by essentially being your own builder, or just doing the hard work of building it and not buying it from a national home builder.
Yeah. Well,
So
I'm sorry to have to cut this off a little bit short. I have to start getting ready for work, but I definitely would like to have you on again sometime.
yeah, hey Jack, we really do appreciate you inviting me on. Great to talk with you and your audience, and yeah, would love to be able to come back, and hopefully I can have some numbers to share behind our new construction builds.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks so much, Jack. Appreciate it. Hope you have a great day.